Welcome dear students. Today we'll read the short story A Wall is Safer by Shashi Deshpande. Shashi Deshpande is an award-winning novelist, Indian novelist who won Padma Shri, Kerala Sahitya Academy Awards and many awards. She is known for her female characters who are educated, modern, but at the same time who is in conflict with the society, with the patriarchal society, with the male chauvinistic family members, especially husbands. And this particular short story, A Wall is Safer, is also something very similar, where we find a similar heroine, an educated woman who was forced to give up her career as a lawyer so that she can be with her husband, looking after her children and be there for them. So as the title suggests, it's about the wall which protects this woman, but at the same time, it actually blocks the view of the outside world, which will remind her of the career, of the success that she will have, the life that she will be having outside the four walls that she's confined. So it's a typical story where we find this young woman who was successful once as a lawyer, but now she has resigned to her fate, and and one fine day she meets an old friend. She comes to visit her and reminds her of her career and the need to come out of the wall, but she emphasizes that a wall is safer always, for the happiness of the family, for the happiness of her husband, and also for her own safety. She resigns to her fate. Let's read the short story first. I want you to take the book Breaking the Silence and turn to page 94. So we'll read the short story. And it is a narrow ribbon of a road. A little earlier, it had been only an incision in the full-grown sugarcane. Sitting in the minibus, you could hear sibilant whispers as the cane brushed against its sides. With the cane gone, there is nothing to demarcate the road from the flat expanse of the land on either side. The lone cyclist is like a marker now, showing me where the road is. I know he is coming here, not only because I can identify him as Ramachandra, but because there is nowhere else he can go. The road ends here with us. The sun glances off the white clothes in a blinding glare as he comes nearer, and I am forced into the house. As I wait for him, I wonder whether he can tell me why Sita Bhai hasn't come today. I have been struggling against both exasperation and anxiety since the morning, waiting for her, watching the work pile up. So in the first paragraph, we are introduced to the protagonist. We don't know the name yet, the female protagonist who is waiting for her servant Sita Bai, and we find another man, Ramachandran, and later on we find that she is actually Sita Bai's husband, and the protagonist is waiting eagerly for her servant so that she can finish off the works. The tinkle of the cycle bell sends me out. He hands me a note with an ingratiating smile without getting off his bike. From the Sahib, he says, and rides off without giving me a chance to say anything. He is afraid I will question him about his domestic tangle. Or is it a triangle? So we find, two families here. One is that of the protagonist, and then the family of this servant Ramachandran and Sita Bai. And we are introduced to a triangle that the Sita Bai is into. Her husband Ramachandran, who is having a woman in his life. We'll find that later on in the story. And it amuses me sometimes, the thought that even here in this God-forsaken place, there is this problem of the other woman. So she says, she wonders, even with these poor people, this problem of the other woman is common. Six rearing its ugly head, Vasant calls it and laughs. Oh, Sita Bhai. And yet her deliverance keeps sympathy away. I opened the note. It is from Vasant. So now we are introduced to the husband, the man of the family, that is Vasant, who has sent a note through Ramachandran to this woman. of the house, neither curious nor expectant about its contents. I know it will be only to tell me that there will be a guest for lunch, tea or dinner. And we have more guests here than we ever had in Bombay. Anyone who comes here to meet Vasant has to be brought home for some sort of a meal. There is nowhere else they can go. I am used to it now and it means nothing more to me than having to cook a little extra. The men don't expect anything from me at all. They are here to talk to Vasant and they do just that. When they have to speak to me, they are uneasy, unnatural. Forced smiles flicker across their faces as they talk to me, staying on even when there is no need. They turn away from me with almost audible sighs of relief, and I sometimes wonder whether they will recognize me if they see me at another time, another place. So this is the usual thing that happens in that house. Her husband will bring some guests for some sort of meal, dinner or snacks or for a high tea. And these men, they just talk to Vasant and she's always ignored. And when occasion demands, they are very uneasy to speak to this woman of the house. Now I read the note mechanically, thinking, hope it isn't someone for lunch. The vessels are not washed. The house not swept. Oh good, it's for tea. And what shall I make for the tea? Then suddenly the news penetrates, getting through my housewife's armor. It's Sushma who is coming. Sushma. All at once, the texture of the day seems to change. Its pace quickens and evens. Sushma coming to stay an evening and a night. I hurry energetically through my tasks so fast that when Sitabai eventually turns up, I have done most of my works. So it's not a guest, it's not an usual guest, but Sushma, whom she is also familiar, a friend of hers. Why didn't you wait for me? Sitabai asked. The servant woman comes, Sitabai comes. You know I will always come unless I am dead or dying. She isn't being melodramatic. I know she is speaking the literal truth. When she told me about her pregnancy, my heart had failed me to look for another woman when I had just got used to this one. But now I know she will keep coming. She needs the money and the food. Ramchandra gives most of his pay to that other woman. So Sitabai needs money for food, for looking after her children and for herself. So whatever happens, she will turn up. Sitabai and Ramchandra apt names for a couple, but of course it isn't a happy coincidence. Since he was Ramachandra, the woman he married was renamed rather by his parents as Sitabai. And that is why I have all these troubles, she had said phlegmatically once. What can you expect when you are named Sitabai but troubles? So she associates her name with the mythological Sita, who was forsaken by her husband, who had all the troubles in her life, who was forced to face those troubles. She had used the word vanvas for troubles. I thought of its literal meaning: stay in the forest, be an exile in your own house, in your own society. I had toyed with the thought for a while, to be a Sita who follows her husband into exile. Would it help? It didn't. I had to laugh as I abandoned the idea. She uses all these characters to look into. She's contemplating her own life as well. She has denied her future as a successful lawyer and has accompanied her husband when he got the transfer and landed this place. So, like Sita, who went for an exile with her husband, husband Ram, she also came along with her husband, forsaking all the success and the career and whatever the other city offered her. Me, a Sita, she makes a comparison here. Me, am I a Sita? I am here not out of choice, but because there was none. It's not a choice. She was not offered a choice. She was not asked, if you want, you can stay here and be a lawyer, and it's not like that. There was no other choice for her. Your husband was just here. I tell Sitabai, I wanted to ask him about you, but he was off like a shot. She spat out the pronoun. He hasn't come home for 3 days. Good riddance, I say. Who wants to see his face? She can have him, the other woman. And Sitabai seems to be unaffected. We get on with our work, the two of us, her monotonous voice providing a soothing background to our task. I clear up the children's room, make up Raju's bed for Sushma. He can come in with us. By the time they come, the minibus brings them all at the same time. I am ready for them. Sushma is the first to get off. You have lost weight, she says at once. It is said as if it is an accusation. And you are still eating those greasy office lunches. You are darker too. She goes on, ignoring my words and welcoming smile, still scrutinizing me. Well, of course, it's the sun. In Bombay, you don't really get to know the sun. It keeps its distance. When it approaches you, it does so deviously from between buildings, through chinks in curtains, filtering through sparse foliage. Here there is nothing, absolutely nothing between you and the sun. It attacks you directly with its two weapons, heat and glare, and you have nothing to fight back with except the pigment in your skin. The next hour is chaotic. I have to cope with tea, the children's excited conversation, and Sushma following me about chattering. I can relax only when the table has been cleared. The children instantly go out and assume some game of theirs. The three of us sit out in the cane chairs, the only sound at first being the hissing noise Sidabai makes between her teeth as she washes up, squatting at the low tap a little distance away. We watch the sunset. The vast panorama of the sky is always overwhelming here. Now it is dramatic too. A corner of the stage illuminated as if a spotlight has been turned on to it. It is like a flamboyant finale when the sun finally goes down in flaming colors. Each time I see this, I feel some kinship with those ancient Aryans who sang paeans to the being who made all this possible. A tinge of freshness touches my jaded mind. All at once it is evening. There is that curious hush, which is only an interlude between the night sounds begin. We speak in low voices now as if it would be wrong to break the stillness in the nature. The children are unaffected and their high, excited voices punctuate our conversation. God, it's wonderful here, Sushma says, peaceful. All the same, I wouldn't like to live here. It's terrible. So it's peaceful, but it's far away from the hustle bustle of the society. Hustle bustle of people who are going for work and coming back from work. I know what she means. Everything here is limitless, immense. Your eyes go easily all the way to the horizon. The immensity makes nothing of you and your concerns. Sometimes it suits me. This idea of my own insignificance, often, however, I anger that it makes so many years of my life take on the grey color of futility. The immense, this vastness, the expanse of the nature that they see and feel they are. It is always compared to her own life. Vasant is now arguing with Sushma and she retorts with spirit. She says, "Your agricultural research station and you research scientists," with a sharp note of sarcasm in the words. "You Bombay people," he says disparagingly. And I know he will soon go on to "you lawyers" and the final dithyramb, "you women lawyers." He gets to it at last and then says, and as if that isn't enough, "you have to turn into a feminist as well." So this is the usual conversation, and we get an insight into her husband's we get how he views women, especially lawyers, especially women who are working, and lawyers especially. And finally, the term feminist also comes in. I wonder why the word feminist invariably sounds derogatory. Is it the way it is pronounced? But Sushma is irritated by the very word. I am not a feminist, she says firmly. That's too vague. What we are trying to do is very concrete. We want women everywhere to become aware of their legal rights. Nothing more. She has already told me she is here to attend a meeting in a town very near to us. We have roped in the local women's clubs and associations. She says and tells us what they are planning. Even Vasant gives up his supercilious pose and listens seriously. And I remember their last encounter. She had fought against his decision to take up this job which brought us here. "Look," she said, You have an alternative, a perfectly good job in Bombay. But if you go there, what about Hema? So now we find the name of the protagonist, that is Hema. What can she do there in the middle of nowhere? So, Hema recounts the last encounter between Sushma and Vasant. When she questioned why he opted to come to the city and force Hema to give up her career. She can teach or something. There are schools in the next town. For God's sake, ma'am, she's a lawyer and not a teacher. Would you change your profession that way overnight? It's not the same. Why? So, a woman is, here we find Vasant is the voice of the society speaking to Vasant. Being a teacher is a perfectly normal, very safe career for a woman. So even if she's a doctor or a lawyer or whatever she is, she can be a teacher. She just choose to be a teacher in a school or in somewhere. You can teach somewhere. Unable to move him, she had turned on to me. You are a defeatist, she said. You are just giving up on yourself. Well, what can I do? This is the work he always wanted to do. So he is going anyway, in any case, spirit. Maybe I can continue here with the children, I have thought of it. But it means 2 establishments, money problems, a weekend, not a vacation marriage. So if she chooses to be there with the children, what happens is that her husband will move on to another place, another city, and they will be forced to manage 2 houses, and they will be seeing each other only during vacation or weekends. So the children without their father for months, me without a husband for months, he without a wife, and children for months. So it's not a choice. She's not given an alternative. Now, after listening to Sushma, Vasant suddenly turns to me and says, "Look, Hema, why don't you get involved with this thing of Sushma's? You can go once a week, maybe." So now, as if considering his wife, he says, you can also get involved with these things, so that you can go out once a week and be with some other women, and you won't feel that you are confined to these walls, confined to this house. You don't have to feel guilty. I want to say to Vasant, it's my doing, this coming here. Nobody pushed me into it. I chose to come with you. Like Sita, who chose to be with her husband during the exile. Sorry, Vasant, it won't work. Sushma says, why not? Ask Hema. I moved intolerantly in my chair while I think of what to say. I'm a pure professional. I want to say, like you, I'm a lawyer, not a social worker. But I don't say any of this. Instead, I mumble, oh, I'm all right as I am. After all, I'm a good housewife now. So she wanted to say that she's a lawyer and not a social worker to get involved with these things. But she chose to say something else. I'm not being bitter or ironic. I mean it, but somehow it silences the two of them. After an awkward pause, Vasant changed the subject. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, they are starting on the fence tomorrow. So now we are getting to know something that is happening in that house, which gives the title to the story. So they are going to make a fence around the house. I have been asking for it for quite a while now. When they first came here, I had a pure feeling that there was nothing wrong with this house. Something more than the fact that it was squat, ugly and purely functional. It took me a few days to realize that it was the lack of a fence. You stepped out of the front door and were immediately swallowed up into the immensity. It had daunted me and I had begun agitating for some sort of a fencing. Oh good, I say, we are on a safe track now. Vasant tells Sushma about his work, and Sushma, impressed but determined not to show it, says lightly, well, I can see you are heading for a Padma Shri at least. He protests laughingly, but I can see he is pleased with the way Sushma encouraged him and inquired about his success. And Sushma goes on, and here she is, the woman behind the successful man, and the one to whose support you owe everything, the devoted, self-effacing wife. Oh, shut up, I say, smiling to show I know it's a joke. But the words stay with me, self-effacing. Suppose you go on effacing yourself until you are wholly blotted out. For some reason, I think of the cry of the newborn, a triumphant assertion of being, of existing, and I also think of how there is no difference between the cry of a female baby and a male one. When does it become a virtue to stifle that cry? So, when you are born, there is no difference. The cry of a female baby and a male baby, there is absolutely no difference. But at some point of time, one of the voice is stifled by the society. I don't know the answer to this question. I only know that I bitterly envy Vasant when he comes home tired, satisfied and full of what he has been doing. Formerly, he used to share his day with me. Not anymore. I wonder why. Maybe it's because I have nothing to offer in exchange. The small cash of day seems paltry in comparison. So as days goes by, they don't exchange news, the things that happened during the day. At night, after the children and Vasant have gone to bed, Sushma puts me through a cross-examination. Am I happy here? What do I do with myself? Can I go on this way? I am busy, I tell her. I have enough to do. I cook, I clean, I wash, I iron, I read, I listen to music, help the kids with their lessons, I visit. I am forced to stop for lack of breath. And Sushma pounces on me. Visit? Who? Or is it whom? Whom, I think? Families like us. There are a few houses on the other side of the farm. We visit one another with scrupulous regularity. I have now got used to the monotonous grind of the conversation, the sameness of the topics we touch. What I cannot get used to is the way I feel when I am with them. It's like I do when the minibus moves away from me in the mornings, my own reflections sliding past me in continuous series. So many identical reflections of my own self, they make me uncomfortable. So she used to visit people. There are a few houses and there are housewives, and when she visits them, she sees her own reflection there. For God's sake, Sushma, I finally say, don't make me out to be one of your exploited women. I know all my legal rights. She knows when to stop. She gives up and we begin to reminisce. I go to bed in a good mood, but I am surprised by a fierce surge of longing to be one of those women who carry their work about with them, a writer, a painter, a musician. But she's denied that, though she chose for herself. The next morning, they are all to leave at the same time. I rush about getting breakfast ready, suddenly eager to have the house and the day to myself once more. The children shout warnings when they see the bus approach. Sushma smiles and says, well, when are you coming to Bombay? I don't know, sometime. I may come here myself for another meeting. Lovely, I say, but somehow I don't look forward to it. In some way, Sushma threatens the tenuous peace I have built around myself. So the coming of Sushma actually disrupts the routine that she has created for herself, the peace that she has created for herself, the wall she has created for herself. The bus comes and they all get in. It begins to move and mechanically I count my reflections. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then they are gone. I am sure Sushma is already looking through some papers. Vasant will be reading too. The children squabbling over seats. I go inside and Sitabai asks me, have they gone, your friend too? There is a gleam in her eye which tells me she is going to grill me about Sushma. Is she married? And how many children? And where does her husband work? I hurry to offer her a bait that will turn her thoughts elsewhere. Sitabai, I say they are coming to put up the fence today. Barbed wire. Barbed wire? Sitabai sniffs in contempt. What's the use of barbed wire? They should build a wall. It's safer. And then Hema also contemplates on it, a wall. That is safer because if it is warm, barbed wire, you can see what is happening outside. So a wall, it will block the view, the outside view. A wall, as the work goes on and the fence goes up around us, I think of her words, finally it is done, 5 rows of barbed wire. And only then I understand Sitabai's words, a wall is safer. With a wall, you can't even see what's on the other side. You can be yourself without comparing with yourself with the world outside. But suppose the dangers are inside, what do you do then? But then immediately she things, maybe it's not the world outside which will make you uneasy, but maybe something that is inside the wall is making you uneasy about the life that she has actually left behind. So then what to do if it is inside? So like many other stories and novels of Shashi Deshpande, like Roots and Shadows, The Dark Hole, Snow Terrors, The Binding Wine, all those novels and other short stories, they all have similar endings and similar heroines. And here also we find a similar ending where we find this educated woman who is resigned to her own fate, who has rejected her career for the sake of her family, and so on. So please read this short story, and if you have any doubts, you can post it in the Google Classroom, or you can ask me. Thank you.